Sigue en sintonía de nuestra programación.
Ahora empieza su programa, el show del doctor Roy Aranda. Temas sobre los efectos que tiene la separación de los niños de sus padres, traumas que afrontan los indocumentados, violencia doméstica, el porqué de la violencia en las escuelas. Llámanos en vivo al 1-888-900-2811, extensión 6, y haz tus preguntas al aire. ¡Comenzamos!
Buenas noches, queridos televidentes de la famosísima Tribuna TV. Good evening, my dear viewers from the very famous Tribuna TV. Today, hoy día, el 19 de diciembre, today is December 19th. I only have 11 more days for my birthday. I just thought I'd throw that in. Me quedan solo 11 días para mi cumpleaños, pero eso será otro show. Today we have a wonderful program. Tenemos un programa muy interesante hoy. It's actually a continuation of last week. For those of you who were on the show last week, we focused on holiday blues, depression over the holidays, impacting more children. Today, given the large response and how important this topic is, especially this time of the year, I decided it would be very important to have a show that focused on the adults. So, hoy el programa sobre la depresión durante la época navideña para más bien los adultos. So the actual topic today, the title, you know, we like to use titles, we psychologists. Happy Holidays to Holiday Blues. What do the holidays mean to you? And that's thanks to my good friend Peter Canaris, who came up with that title. In Spanish, Feliz Navidad o Depresión Navideña. ¿Qué significan las fiestas para ti? And I have two wonderful guests, and I'm delighted to say that one of them is actually here today. Dr. Daniel Kaplan, waving his hands. I've known you for 5-ish or so years, more or less.
I would say it's been about 10.
Wow, that long.
It's been about 10.
Yeah, I guess when you age, the years melt away. And we also have Dr. Judy Kuriansky, who will be joining us on Skype. So what I did want to tell the viewers, quería dejarles todos saber, hoy es el último show del año. Today is the last show of the year. Like Congress, I too have decided to take a break. So como Washington, D.C., yo estoy tomando un break durante los holidays. Y voy a regresar en enero. I'll be back next month in January, and we'll have another new theme for you and a new year to look forward to. So I did want to let everybody know, the viewers, that the show is, as always, being recorded as right now on the spot. It's being recorded live on YouTube, and by tomorrow the show will be available on several electronic communication platforms. So we're going to have it on Facebook. It'll be, as I mentioned, on YouTube. It'll be on Tribuna TV's website. You can search for it over there, and it's also stored at Vimeo and possibly other electronic sources that I'm not even aware of. But it'll be certainly available for you. I have several slides, as has been my practice. You're welcome, the viewers are welcome to look at the show, to save it, store it, send it to their friends, and of course you can stop it at certain points and print out the slides if you find that they're useful for you. So without further ado, what I wanted to do is start by mentioning what the inspiration for the show is. So Don Oscar is my TV producer. So say hello, Oscar.
Hello.
Nobody can see him, but he's over there. And I also have a good companion who's on the side, and maybe he'll be giggling from time to time, who's also been a guest on the show before. ¿Me puede enseñar el primer slide?
¿No lo va a presentar?
No, primero slide.
Okay, wait. Give me a show right here. Okay.
I'm going to give you my inspiration for the show. It's something I'd like viewers to know why it is that I think the show is timely and important. So here, I think, I mentioned last week, for those of you who are already here, it's a little bit of a repetition, although part of it is completely new. For those of you who are watching for the first time, I reported that I lost my mother a long time ago on December 13th. But since my birthday happens to be on December 30th, and I'll share for the first time as well that my older son, his first birthday, was also a little bit after my own. So my mom missed his first birthday. So it was like a time of year that for me was very, very depressing, and that depression lasted for a long time. I didn't have the advantages of these kinds of shows or peer support or anything, the kinds of education that I'm trying to give to the viewers, and it was really a struggle dealing with this on my own, which is not the best, most recommendable thing to do. But fortunately, I did get over the depression, and I really found a love for holidays, and especially this time of the season again. But it did make me very sensitive to the needs of my patients. As a psychologist, I have several offices. I think I've mentioned that before. And it was always an area of deep concern for me to make sure that my patients, how they felt around the time of the holidays, what kinds of things they might be doing, and to try to offer them some anchors of hope, encouragement to go forward and to help cope with feelings of depression, anxiety, and some of the losses. And I would always talk about that before the holiday and then also after the holiday. So I did put together some statements made by some of my patients. I just wanted to share a handful. Hay que subir la pantalla un poco. These are actual statements made by patients. No pienso en el mañana. I don't think about tomorrow. Vivo día a día. I live day by day. Como cualquier día, like any other day. Que Dios me ayude a salir de esto. May God help me get out of this. El dolor me está matando. The pain is killing me. Mi esposa me quiere botar de la casa. My wife wants to throw me out of the house because he was so irritable. No me da ganas de salir. I don't feel like going out. Me quedo encerrado en la casa. I stay locked in the house. No puedo hacer nada. I can't do anything. Quisiera trabajar como antes, pero no puedo. I want to work as before, but I can't. No hay nada. This was a trilogy from one patient. The last three that I thought was so important. No quiero hacer. No hay nada. There's nothing. No hay plata, there's no money. No hay regalos, there are no gifts. So I did want to let my viewers know that I am dedicating this show to the viewers, to my patients, and pretty much to people who have a taste of what we call the holiday blues, and that I'm dedicating this show to them. What I wanted to do now is to introduce the guests, and I'm going to start with Dr. Daniel Kaplan, and then I'm just going to say a few things. Dan, younger than me, so his CV is not as long as mine yet.
I'm working on it.
Otherwise, I'd be 10 minutes reading it.
Working on it.
So Dr. Daniel Kaplan, he's an assistant professor in the psychology department of St. Francis College, received his doctoral degree in clinical psychology in 2014 at Walden University's Department of Psychology. He does a lot of research examining how religious beliefs and practices influence mental health. For instance, anxiety, depression, substance abuse. He didn't give me this in what I wrote, but he's been doing a lot of stuff in immigration. And in fact, I know that you've had one conference. You have a second conference coming up. I think it's March
27th.
And then you're working on some sort of a book, or you're editing a book that's dealing with immigration. We have had many topics pertaining to immigration on this show. And many of my viewers are very, very, very interested in that. And I know that you and I have talked about you coming at some other point again, so that we can focus on immigration-related issues.
Absolutely.
I just thought that I'd throw that in. He's worked to improve treatment and access to care of ethnic minorities. He's done a lot of research on prescriptive authorities. This is for psychologists who might be interested in prescribing medication. Right now, it's something that you have to be a medical doctor to be able to do. He's got a long litany of boards and committees that he's a member of. I'll spare you that. But I will highlight that he will be president of New York State Psychological Association next year. Congratulations.
On the shoulders of giants.
I was president, when was it, 2016?
2016, yes.
I forget. He's also been the chair of several of the divisions and committees of importance at New York State Psychological Association. But what he and I, what Dan and I do have in common very much is that we the both of us, we champion minorities. We try to empower. We try to be the voice for those who don't have a voice, and we try to champion them. And you put something out there, you have to. We try to be the voice for those who don't have a voice, and we try to champion them. And you put something out there, you have to. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah.
She has several books on relationships, for instance. She has several books on relationships, for instance. Washington, D.C., what are you doing on my show?
Being recognized.
They
by
need you. They So she has a website, and Dr. So welcome so much, Judy. Do you have anything to add?
That, I mean, obviously, it's extremely important to pay attention to there's still Ebola raging there and violence.
substance of the show. Depression, how many people are affected by it. We'll talk about substance of the show. Depression, how many people are affected by it. We'll talk about depression. And resources. So how typical is it to feel sad this time of the symptoms of depression? This week we're coping with holiday blues again week as well. So so it's really a long period of time, and there are January 6th. Of course, corner starting on
Sunday night.
On Sunday, involved in.
Might I add that the Orthodox
I gave you some statistics here, so I just wanted I wanted a very, very big association, and I'll provide you with a reference. %, remembering happier times, and 50% separated from family member. You have people in Guatemala. We have viewers from Guatemala. Other countries, Jamaica, Dominican, taken seriously. Feeling sad is something normal. went through in previous slide, feeling lonely, you're by yourself or another. People in the military, think about it, they're away. In the hospital. They could be on work assignments at other locations. In the hospital. They could be on work assignments at other locations. Difficulty, either a separation. I myself indicated was my my reason for. It was important enough to have the inspiration for the show. You could be sick or be ill, or they may be ill or have. You want to add? You want to add? You want to add?
Identify the patterns and work towards disorders. The DSM-5, seasonal.
DSM
affective disorder is a more pervasive condition. In fact, it's actually in the DSM-5 listed as major depressive disorder with seasonal onset. And most commonly in the Northern Hemisphere, it's in the winter months. So we talk about the winter blues.
Which would be obviously this
around the
time of year.
holidays, right? But in the Southern Hemisphere, interesting to note, they have more of the summer blues, right, which would be their winter. So it's interesting how that works out. But there are people who are more prone to seasonal affective disorder. Researchers have found that being female, younger, having a family history of depression, living far away from the equator, all of these things put you at risk of seasonal affective disorder. But I also want to give Judy the opportunity to weigh in as well.
Well, that was very interesting. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
And I'm very moved, actually, Lloyd, by what you said tonight. And I heard you say this last week when I watched your show about children, about losing your mom and how that was so painful to you. So my heart goes out to you about that. And you also mentioned that you have, at this point, years later, that you've recovered, and the show has helped you recover, and sharing those feelings with others, which is very touching. And I think we all can relate to that and see that, in fact, it's something that can be healed, because everyone has someone they have lost that they can remember. For you, it was during Christmas when your mom passed.
Yep.
You know, for me, it was in the summertime. But now I have no mom and no brother and no father and just my sister far away. And so I'm by myself and have had, even though you got me to be sharing, okay? I'm a psychologist, but you've opened me up to talking about my own life. So
But this thing about sharing is so important, because it's one of the things that we have under suggestions and recommendations for the viewers: sharing, talking, and listening. So I'm done talking, I'm going to listen.
So how are the holidays for you?
So I think the two things, I'm taking my own advice that, as you mentioned, I've been on the radio, my goodness, now it's been probably 3 decades that I gave advice to people on the radio. And so I take some of my own advice. And some of that advice is to make plans with other people. My husband, by the way, is gone too. So I'm alone. And so I've discovered other people who are also alone. And so I'm making plans with those friends who are alone. That's one thing. The other is that you, Roy, have mentioned your anchors of hope. I love that you've said that, the anchors of hope. And so I think about that. What is the hope and the appreciation that I have? You read so many sad things from your patients about they don't feel like going out to work, they don't want to go out of the house, there's nothing, there's no money, there's no gifts. So what about the things we can appreciate? So I think to myself constantly, what my own advice has always been, count what your blessings are, that old phrase. And I said that in the beginning, like I'm so blessed and appreciative of that I have a home to live in, I have food to eat, I have clothes that I can wear, I have friends like you both and colleagues like you both. And counting all those blessings, I think, is important for me, and it's important, I think, for everyone once you get into that negative thing, because from a neurological point of view, there's only one thought that can be in your head at the same time. So either I'm thinking, I have, there's no money, there's nobody I love, there's nothing to do. Instead, that second, you have to think about something positive, and that's the only thing that's in our brain.
Well, otherwise it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the examples that I gave you from my patients, you can imagine my challenge, my task is, what do I do with the patients who are exhibiting these negative cognitions, these negative thoughts? And I got to sit there and think to myself and avoid platitudes and avoid, little cliches. Oh, the sun will come up tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow's a new day. Oh, things will get better. I mean, come on, that's BS. I mean, I'm just going to abbreviate it. But if you're going to do something for real deal. You have to think what actually will have some sort of meaning, and it really means listening, talking, looking for the anchors of hope. And I try, and I would recommend that, obviously to viewers, you don't have to be a professional to do this, but if you can latch on to one thing, you say something or one thing that comes up in your session where your patient actually smiles, or you can see that the mood changes slightly. You latch on to that and you say, well, look, see, there is something that's possible. I also want to mention that although we're talking about holiday blues and things like that, and I gave you the listing of things that my patients were saying, I have to deal with them after the holidays.
That's right.
They still exist. I'm still going to have to ask them, what did you do? What are your thoughts and expectations for the new year? And this is where you get more cliches than ever. Oh, I want to lose some weight. You're not going to lose weight. Forget about it. Give up on it.
They might.
What's realistic? I want to feel better. We all want to feel better. So what's realistic? For some of my patients who are on workers' compensation, they say, I really would like to close my case, settle, take the money, and run. I think to myself, that's probably pretty realistic. What can you do about that? Where would you go? What are some of your plans for that? And that opens up the dialogue. Let's look at some of the symptoms. Now, por favor, Oscar, slide 5. So again, I'll read some of the symptoms here, and then I'm going to ask Doctors Dan and Judy to go ahead and take it away as well. So these are symptoms of depression in adults. Again, some of these are somewhat similar to the kids, but I try to make it more, more in gear for the, for adults. Feeling sad, certainly if you see instances of crying or teary-eyedness in your sessions, sense of hopelessness, feelings of worthlessness and helplessness. I'm no good. I can't do anything no matter what I do. I can't get out of this. Nothing's going to change. I feel so sad when I have some of my patients, and I already asked them, what are your expectations for next year? And they say to me, Doctor, no tengo ninguna esperanzas. Doctor, I have no hope. I have no expectation. Do you know how sad that is to hear that? And I'm saying, oh my God, I have my work cut out. That is really, really when you're down in the dumps, that you don't see any signs of anything. Loss of interest in activities. You stay home, you stay in your room, you stay in bed, you don't want to go anywhere. Some very common changes that I think are very typical cues for most of the viewers to be aware of. Changes in appetite. It can go either way. It can be overeating or loss of appetite, or it can be binge eating up and down. Disturbed appetite, disturbed sleep. You can also have physical symptoms, a variety of aches and pains, stiff neck, headaches, vague kinds of I don't feel well, I feel run down and tired. Difficulty concentrating, you lose your attention, you lose your focus. I mentioned loss of energy, feeling tired. Changes in behavior, withdrawal, isolation, becoming more aggressive. I had one patient the other day who I saw who's telling me that he can't help himself. He says things that are so inappropriate socially. He just blurts things out, angry. I mean, he's obviously holding a lot of internal thing, but that's a change in behavior that for me was a very big sign that something was going on of significance with him. This is the serious thing, and you mentioned somebody.
Sure.
Thoughts of suicide gestures. Don't play around with it. Yeah. Viewers, don't play around with taking the suicide, either patients talking, not patients, your friends, family members, people that you know make certain statements about it. You don't change the topic. That's not something you avoid and pretend it goes away. It's potentially very serious. Use of alcohol and drugs. It's certainly okay socially. within, certain social parameters to drink alcohol. Of course, these holidays, be on the road. You're going to have a lot of DWIs, and that's not appropriate. And that is a change in behavior also, drinking and driving. But I'm referring to drugs that are illicit and over-reliance, and not just drugs like cocaine or heroin or some of the big drugs. And I'm also talking about medication types of drugs, self-medicating types of drugs, engaging in high-risk activities. You're angry, you drive more, you drive fast. You don't look when you're going somewhere. You just taking greater risks. So these are some of the signs of depression. So, puede bajar slide again, Drs. Dan, Dr. Judy, please comment on these, add to them.
Sure.
Critique them. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong. I would say that it's not a one-size-fits-all. When you put out a lot of different features of depression, and in order to be diagnosed with depression, you only need 5 out of 9 features for 2 or more weeks. So when you're looking at this, and when people at home are listening, they're like, well, do they need all of these? No, just 5 out of 9. And each person, their what I call the constellation of symptoms, are going to be unique to that person. Now, I'm going to bring it back to seasonal affective disorder as well, which I keep drawing a parallel. Interesting to note that the features of depression are different for people who experience seasonal affective disorder in the fall and the winter relative to those people who experience it in the spring and the summer, right? So a lot of the low energy, listlessness, feeling like you're dragging your body, that oftentimes happens in the winter, whereas what we tend to see in the spring or the summer, we tend to see more of the insomnia and agitation and anxiety that tends to emerge. So, and I'm going to swing
Judy?
it back to you.
Anything?
Well, yes, indeed. Roy mentioned all these symptoms of the depression in adults, and so I wanted to point out that this is valid for people who are in a relationship as well as people who are not in a relationship. That sometimes people who are not in a happy relationship or a happy marriage can be even more depressed over the holidays because they get to see that what's not working. And then in terms of being single and alone, interestingly, I was on Fox TV today on a story about what's called self-partnering. That some actress came out and said that I'm alone and I enjoy it, and I'm self-partnering for the holidays. And so they asked me, what is self-partnering and what does it mean and is it good for you? And I thought, oh my goodness, I've been recommending people do this for years on the radio. Now all of a sudden, there's some phrase for it, self-partnering, but it makes a great deal of sense because the advice really is to deal with all these symptoms that you've mentioned if you are alone, to be your own best partner and your own best date for the holiday. If you have no one to be with, then you are the best person to be with, and make a plan for how you're going to dress up just as you would for a favorite date person or your favorite partner, and take yourself to a place, make a plan to go to a show or a concert or for a walk in the park as you would happily. And so that's the essence of this supposedly new concept of self-partnering for single people over the holidays.
I like the idea of self-partnering. But I think we can sort of take it a step further as well. I mean, I'm happily married. Hi, Irm. I know you're not watching, but I'm going to say hello anyway. my lovely wife at home. So, but in terms of, so I don't need to self-partner with her. But the point of the self-partnering is that when it comes, my birthday is December 30th, and I plan to go to the Tanger outlet at Riverhead, and I'm going to buy myself a nice, beautiful watch. I have a watch collection, so I'm going to self-partner with myself to buy myself on my birthday a watch. And I think that people can do this. You can take care of yourself and be luxurious to yourself, even if you are in a good relationship, but put yourself on the higher pedestal on certain special days, and you take care of yourself, whether or not you have a partner.
I totally agree with you. I advise to that all the time. You mentioned before, I wrote the Complete Idiot's Guide to Dating, and that led to the Complete Idiot's Guide to a Healthy Relationship. But the point of that was, if you keep on dating your partner and coming up with questions like, what's your favorite color, and what do you really want for your birthday? Does your wife, Roy, know that you really wanted to watch and that that's your passion? You might, if you weren't married, you would say, oh, my favorite thing and what I really want is to watch. Have you said that to her? I mean, that would be the essence of having
Actually, I'm buying a his, her. I think it's an eBell or a nice Concord watch at Tanger Outlet. A his, her set. I always include her.
Relatedly.
Dan, have you made those kinds of statements?
I allude to the things I like, absolutely. But I love the concept of self-partnering, too, and it brings back the analogy of putting your oxygen mask on first before helping another person. And before you can genuinely give authentic love to another person, you have to love yourself, and you have to love being with oneself. So I like that idea that you brought up as well. I did want to talk about the suicide piece again, and I want to impress upon the viewers that you don't dance around the topic. If someone says any allusion to the fact that they're suicidal, ask direct questions. Do you have intent? How might you do it? And if it is serious, which we should take every statement of suicide seriously, then you should accompany them to the hospital. Yeah, I think that's an important point.
I think you also need to be wary as well that sometimes not saying something or behavioral changes where you've had consistent pattern of behavior and now you're seeing changes in behavior and not wanting to talk. Also, that can be an indicator that there's something bad going on, and don't just ignore it because like your teenager is telling you, I don't want to talk about it, or leave me alone, or they slam the door in your face.
Because it's an uncomfortable topic, right? But so don't avoid it, because as you said, it could be fatal.
We're going to now focus on slide 6, and this is really what I think is the biggie of the show, por favor seis, because the biggest message that I have for my viewers, I think that you're all aware of what it means to feel sad, what it means to be down, what it means to have some financial stress this time of the year. The viewers are aware of what it means to have lost somebody or to have family members in other countries and they're alone. They can't buy things for their kids. So a lot of the things that we talked about. But what I really consider the silver lining, the big part of today's message is that, and I want to avoid the cliche, there's light at the end of the tunnel, but there is. I mean, there are things that we can do to feel better and to get better and to improve ourselves and to empower ourselves. I was talking before about how Dan and we do things to try to be a voice and articulate the needs of the disenfranchised and unempowered. There's things we can do to empower ourselves. So what I have here is a listing, and again, it's not necessarily everything that you can do, but it's, I think, a relatively good list of things that you can do to try to cope, try to make things better for yourself. Starting with making plans early. So presumably by now you already made the plans. Today's already December 19th. So if you're starting now, you're late. So if you didn't start yet, do it quickly. including shopping. And you need to do this hopefully early, because when you do it early, it decreases stress. You need to be able to cut down on activities. Try not to do things and accommodate everybody and everybody's needs and everybody's interests and everything that you have to do. You have to prioritize. You have to cut down, prioritize, make a budget. If you're going to be spending money, whatever you have, okay, you may not have very much. Whatever it is that you have, if there's some spending that you're planning to do, stick to your budget. Don't overspend. Avoid the over-commercializations that we're seeing. We are bombarded nonstop with messages, with texts for those who have phones, emails, on the TV, ads nonstop, outside, flyers in the stores, flyers, mail, unsolicited mail, giving you like all of these brochures. Spend, 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 spend. That's the message. You have to throw those away and be very careful. Whatever it is that you're going to do, you don't need a million of these products with you, or these brochures with you, or flyers with you to decide what to do. Try to avoid family conflicts. All families have ups and downs in their conflicts. This is a good time to really try to put things a little bit on the mend, even if it's like a little uncomfortable. I had a patient I saw whose daughter's been giving him a lot of grief. She separated from her husband. The husband was abusive. She got back with the husband. Now the daughter doesn't want to come visit him for the holidays unless her husband is invited. And basically I said to him, who's the important one in your relationship? My daughter. So do you want to have a daughter? What would you want to do with your daughter? So that message, he heard the message telling him that what's important to him was not to have the conflict with his daughter at this time of the year. Mm-hmm. There's going to be time later to work on whatever stresses there may be that need to be resolved. I'm not going to pretend that things get fixed necessarily because you try to avoid having the family conflicts. Don't isolate yourself. We're talking about feeling lonely. Try to avoid that. We also talked about eating and sleeping. You need to really watch what you eat and watch how much you sleep. You should get good 6 to 8 hours of sleep. If you're not able to, you may need to seek professional consultation or examine what it is that's going on in your life that's creating difficulty for you to sleep. We don't have time to really get into diagnoses today, mm-hmm. but obviously you need to eat well, healthy, and you need to sleep well. You have to take time to rest, and by that I don't just mean sleeping your 6 to 8 hours, but during the day when you're busy, you're doing things, take a couple of minutes every now and then, sit down, relax, and just rest. Avoid the overeating and drinking. Exercise, whatever extent you're able to, even if you have medical difficulties. The idea of standing up, the idea of walking, even if it's half a block, if that's all you can do, whatever it is that you can do, whatever your doctor, if it's a physical therapist, a medical doctor, whatever is within your capability, try to do that. Focus on positive things. Judy was saying that before. Look for ways to have fun. If it means self-partnering, that works. Whatever it is, look for ways to have fun. Look to have new traditions. Judy was talking about setting up new traditions through self-partnering. This will also allow you to have new memories, because by next year, you're going to have memories of whatever it was that you did this year that was fun. Allow time, if you have a loss, allow time to mourn and heal. You don't have to avoid it. You don't have to feel guilty about it. Nobody should pressure you or in your own mind that you feel guilty because you're remembering something sad, and God forbid you want to be able to talk about it a little bit. Allow yourself to mourn, and you need time to heal. You suffered a loss, and whatever time it takes, if it's very prolonged, you may need professional help. But I'm saying at least it's reasonable to give yourself some time to think about a loss. Ask for help. Talk to people you confide in, and if need be, and again, we've talked about this before, we've alluded to it, professionals. So podemos bajar el slide. So this is really the important slide. So I'd like Dr. Dan and Dr. Judy really to expand on this or elaborate further. I think this is the biggest message that I want to give the viewers.
Absolutely. There are a lot of things that we can do to increase joy at these times. The sun goes down earlier, it gets darker, but several pieces of advice that I might say is try and get outside as much as possible. If it's a walk in the park, if it's listening to the chirping of the birds, if it's just people watching and seeing how other people experience the holidays, that is an important thing. Exercise, you mentioned, it's a natural high. When you exercise, it releases a chemical in the brain called endorphins, which is internal morphine. Mm-hmm. So if you want to get high, work out. It will lift your mood during these times.
And it strengthens your body.
And it strengthens
otherwise
the
your
body.
muscles start becoming more flaccid and your health just generally deteriorates.
Sure. And then there was one more thing that popped into my head as you were talking about budgets. My kids have learned about budgets for a very long time. It's actually been years since I've purchased them their gift for Hanukkah. I give them a budget because they know what they want more, and I say, well, here's your budget. And this could help a family who needs to be on a budget not overspend. I say, here's your budget. Let's go to the store, pick out anything you want within this budget. And you would be amazed at how empowering this is for the kids, because they get to shop for themselves.
You're giving them the control.
I'm giving them the control. That's exactly what it is. And I did this for the first time with my sister's kids, my niece and nephew, for Hanukkah, and they loved it. So if you're really on a budget, you could proactively set up the budget for them if they're at an age where they are beyond believing in Santa Claus or whatnot. It might be useful to give them the control, because that's one practical strategy to allow them to spend within your means.
But even if you have children and you have a budget and you haven't given them the control over their own budget, even it's important for them to know that as a family, if you're going here, this is what you're doing, and from here you're going to go to IHOP or something, and this is what we're going to do over there. And while we're at this store and we're doing shopping, this is what we're shopping for.
Absolutely. So
that not once you're there, all of a sudden, no, I want that, I want this, I want that. We didn't talk about that.
Right. And it does reduce the commercialization, because it's not about the gifts as much as the time you're spending together. And my daughter and son have such different tastes. Both are teenagers, but they have different tastes. But they have to be patient when my daughter says, oh, I want to go, let's say she said, I want to go to Hot Topic, which she was into at one time. My son would have to sit in Hot Topic and be patient and graceful while his sister shops. And then if he wants to go to GameStop and get a video game, she's not into video games. Then she would have to be patient while he shops. And it turns it into a giving experience rather than all about the gift itself.
And little things like smiling and saying thank you go so far.
Yeah.
They really go so far.
I know.
Judy.
Oh, well, I'm so enjoying that story about the children, Dan. It's so sweet. Just learning a lot from you, because you're a good friend in there. Doctor. I'm sure you're a good dad. So I could see. Yeah. So I was looking over your list here, Roy, and it's so important. Every single one of these are critical. And I think about the financial parts that so many people always say that to me over so many years, too, as a therapist, that I'm sure both of you have heard about the stresses of finance that we've discussed, and what gifts are you giving to people, and being overwhelmed by the perfect gift and everything. And my advice has always been on the radio, or even in the Idiot's Guide to a Healthy Relationship, I emphasize all the time, give the gift of you. You're the gift. Absolutely. It doesn't have to be a financial gift, because we measure it so often about how much are you spending, and is it enough, and is it ideal and perfect. So you're the gift, and I know I used to put, actually in the front of the book, there were always these coupons. And the coupons were 4 things that you would do for a partner or a friend or whomever. I'm going to give you an hour of my time to listen, because remember, Roy, you said you were going to listen. That was something you pointed out. I'm going to give you a shoulder massage. I'm going to take you for the walk in the park, because you don't get out to do that. So I think those gifts of you should be something you can think about instead of the money and the commercialization.
Well, that's also where you get those unrealistic expectations. So if the money and the gift start becoming the reason for the holiday, that becomes equated as you love me or you don't love me, depending on how much you give me. And if you give my sister more than you give me, or if my perception is that you gave her a better gift, then that means you love her better than you love me. And then you get their sulky faces after that, and you start feeling guilty, and that adds to your overall feeling of depression and being worthless and a loser as a parent. So I'm just trying to point out the vicious cycle that can happen by something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And even if it's not the perfect gift, if it's something, sometimes you can get something for someone and it's just the ideal thing and it really touches their heart and their soul, or if it doesn't, and then they feel like, again, like you said, that you don't love me because you don't really know me at my core, which is why, to get back to what I said before, then really listen, and what you said was really listening, asking, who are you? What's your favorite color? What do you most like to do? That's a gift, as opposed to a material thing.
All right, Oscar's giving me a sign that I don't have too much time left, so he's killing my expectations that I have more time. So I thought I'd throw that in. ¿Me puede dar slide 7? We have 2 more slides for the viewers, but I'm going to put one, sort of like a surprise. People are going to wonder why I have slide 7 here. 7. So I'm going to ask the viewers, and I'm going to ask Dr. Dan and Dr. Judy, why on earth would I have put a photo of Maria Isabel Bueso, the young Guatemalan young lady who was in the United States with a serious, severe, potentially terminal medical illness, who received a notice along with several others who had medical visas that they had to be deported. I think it was like 28 days or so, if memory serves me. Why on earth would I put a photo of her here in this show? So I know the viewers, you can guess. But Judy or Dan, do you have any thoughts why I would have put this on the show?
Well, I looked at it before, and now that you're pointing it out, really, what I got, we all get what we get, was the message of there's hope. You have your hope message, and I talked about hope, and we all discussed it, and I think the 3 of us all believe in hope is the savior of this holiday season and everything we've talked about, and she had hope and prevailed.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We should all have that.
And there's no greater gift that one can get in the holiday season than freedom and health.
What can possibly be more stressful than facing a deportation, knowing it's a death sentence for you if you're deported? This young lady, to her credit, was strong, articulate, went to Congress, talked about it, was interviewed up the wazoo, never gave up, always said thank you to her doctor. She asked the government to give her the reprieve that she needed, and congratulations, Maria Isabel Bueso de Guatemala, Chapinita, that you have the 2 years continued medical treatment. And my reason for putting the slide is I want all my viewers to know that no matter how grim and bleak things might be. As Dr. Judy mentioned earlier, things are worse in many other parts of the world, and there's always a possibility for getting better. Life always brings us chances for getting better.
You know, I watched her on MSNBC after it came down that she was going to be able to stay, and we talked about gratitude, and if you could see the authentic joy and gratitude.
That's with Lawrence.
I saw
that interview.
That she had. It was quite uplifting.
And I did that on purpose. This time of the year, this is a gift, and it's a gift for the viewers. I want to leave you with resources. So slide 8. This is our last slide. And I wanted to show slide 8. I have resources here. I'm going to encourage the viewers. You know how to reach me. If you need to contact me, you already know my name, Dr. Roy Aranda. I'm on the internet. I have several offices. Dr. Daniel Kaplan, I provide you with his information. He's in Staten Island. There's a phone number and that's an email address. That's for correct. You. Dr. Judy, she has a website that we have placed on the screen for her. You can always look them up also on the internet. Just type in Dan Kaplan, Judy Kuryansky. You're going to come up with all sorts of things on the internet. But those are some of the how to get a hold of them. New York State Psychological Association. I've been promoting NISPA for many, many, many years. I was president of it. Dr. Dan will be president of NISPA next year. The American Psychological Association, just underneath that, you've also heard me promote that. It's the parent psychological association of all New York, of all state associations, New York being the biggest state association here in New York. But again, you're in California, look up California Psychological Association, New Jersey Psychological Association. Wherever you are, there's a psychological association. You don't have to rely only on psychologists. You can look for psychiatrists, you can look for social workers, you can look for mental health counselors, pastoral counselors, rabbis, priests. You know, there's many professionals, many people out there that are able to help you and willing to listen to. The one on the bottom, the last one, National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI. I give you their website and NAMI helpline. That's their phone number, NAMI helpline, 800-950-NAMI. There's a phone number. You can call them. Suicidal thoughts, give a call. There's many crisis centers. States also have their local crisis centers. Long Island has a Long Island Crisis Center. I live in Long Island. So, puedes sacar a slide. So I just wanted, as we wrap up and say goodbye, I wanted to thank Dan for being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Say goodbye, Dan. any parting thoughts? Judy, thank you so much for your time and valuable insights. I hope that all of you, both of you, have wonderful, wonderful holiday. The show's recorded on YouTube right now. Tomorrow it'll be available Facebook, Tribuna TV, Vimeo, and I don't know if I left something out, but it's out there.
Can I close by thanking you for your friendship and for your mentorship? You've been nothing but
well, much
wonderful
appreciated.
person.
So I have to be careful not to fall, because if I fall,
Okay.
I'll have a lousy holiday. No, just kidding. So, Oscar, te saludo públicamente. I'm greeting Oscar, the TV producer, and my close friend Kaz here, who accompanies me, and you don't see him, but he's a good friend, and he's always here through thick and thin. So all my viewers really have a safe, wonderful holiday period, regardless of religion that you may celebrate. It's this time of the year. Try to surround yourself with people that you love, with friends. Try to do things. Try to heed some of the suggestions that we took. And if things really look gloomy, reach out. reach out to any of us, reach out to other professionals. Keep an eye on your neighbors, keep an eye on your neighborhood, keep an eye on people who are elderly, who may be physically ill and need some help. This is a wonderful time to reach out to other people and just give the gift of you, as you said, the gift of you, of yourself. That's the best gift you can give everybody, and to self-love yourself. So, buenas noches a todos. Good night, everybody. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you in 2020, next year, okay?
Right.
Adios. Buenas noches.